Welcome back to Ticket Whisper. I just wanted to discuss some of the precursor thoughts, some of the things that come to mind before you actually get stopped. One of the things that a lot of violators, a lot of people that I wrote citations to often said, and maybe you're in the same category, they don't remember doing what I said that they were doing. And if you just back it up a little bit, don't think that being too critical of the police officer, or if you're not guilty, you're not guilty. So just keep that in your mind as I say this. But if you track back to wherever the officer observed the violation, there was going to be a particular period of time it was going to take them to catch you. Maybe in some instances, maybe they were able to catch you because you're stuck in traffic, and maybe they saw you on a cell phone, which I wasn't there when that really became a big deal when everybody was writing tickets for that. So I don't know all the nuances of it from a ticket writer perspective, but being on the phone in the vehicle, in control of a motor vehicle, is probably all the officer needs to be able to prove to be able to write the citation and have him found guilty. Of course, if you can't raise any kind of doubt in the judge's mind. Now, understand this from the very beginning, the officer is gathering evidence against you, starting with the initial violation they believe they observed, tracking it all the way through to finishing the stop, having you sign on the line, which is dotted, not as an admission of guilt, but just a promise to appear in court. That being the case, the officer is going to be gathering evidence, but going back to the original reason they stopped you, you might not have been in your entire presence of mind at that moment, realizing what you were doing was some kind of a violation, or they could have an entirely different vehicle, an entirely different person. A lot of the time when we're shooting laser, we're shooting out far distances. We can see the vehicle and maintain contact on the vehicle, but the person inside the vehicle, we have no idea who's in it, just because the distance, a half mile, three-quarters of a mile, and depending on the device, could be a mile or more before we actually, from the distance from where our radar device or laser device happens to be in the vehicle or the target. So then after we pull you over, then in that mindset, you're like, well, I wasn't speeding. It maybe for the last three-quarters of a mile you weren't, but maybe at 1 mile out you were. But again, you're watching this because you're not guilty. I'm just informing you that this is the way that they're going to discuss it with you at the window. Some cops use that whole phrase, you know why I stopped you. I'm not a big fan of that. They should tell you why they stopped you and then tell you what they're going to do, and maybe ask you if you have a reason why, because maybe there could be an emergency, maybe there could be some reason you were violating whatever law you happen to be violating. Is that going to be enough of an excuse to have them give you a pass? It is an infraction. I would venture to say if you have people out enforcing laws on a street, not writing citations, but giving warnings, that carries a lot of weight, because everybody driving by, they don't realize the police officer when they have somebody else stopped, because that's a little conviction in of itself. You're driving down a street, maybe you weren't really paying attention to what you're doing because your mind is of course elsewhere. It shouldn't be, but who am I to say, because our minds always go a lot of different places. You're driving, you're not really present in your mind, you're thinking, you're not paying attention exactly. You see somebody else pulled over, and what happens? Well, of course, you think to yourself, oh my God, that could be me. I could have been speeding, and then all of a sudden, but you had a little bit of self-conviction game, but you don't know if that police officer is writing them a ticket or giving them a warning. So I would venture to say that warnings carry a significant amount of weight. Is it as much as a citation? Maybe not for that particular motorist. And maybe some motorists would say, huh, I know I'm going to get a warning because that's all these cops do is issue warnings. So I have nothing to worry about. So I'm just going to haul ass everywhere, blow through red lights, stop signs, and violate pedestrians and crosswalks, and not even give it a second thought, because every time they stop me, they're just going to give me a warning. They're not going to actually issue me a citation. Having said that, I don't know if there are any jurisdictions that that's all they do, but not knowing whether you're going to get a ticket or a warning, I believe carries through to everybody else that's driving by, playing that self-conviction game, saying, oh my God, I should have been paying attention to what I was doing. This poor bastard is getting a ticket from this cop, not realizing that it's an actual warning. Now, I've given my fair share of warnings too, and a lot of times, and I'll cover this in a future video, what's the best way to get out of a citation. But for this particular video, talking about that evidence gathering and the officer starting at the very beginning from the initial violation following all the way throughout the contact, and then finally finishing as you're signing the citation, again, not as an admission of guilt, but a promise to appear. Understand, please, that it really isn't the case that maybe you didn't do it. And if you mind, if you didn't, you need to fight it. But if you actually could have, should you tell the officer that it could have been a maybe you did it? I don't know. I think we need to go with facts. Maybe doesn't qualify. So you either did it or you didn't do it. And as far as I'm concerned, if you can't remember, I would probably say I wouldn't really talk about that either way, because at that time, the officer, deputy, highway patrol person, they're gathering evidence against you. Now, some people have talked to me in the past, wow, you're doing these videos and you're in support of the people violating basic speed, blowing through red lights. Pedestrians, no, I think everybody should have an equitable and equal playing field. And I think this is very proper for those people that get cited to be able to have their day in court and appear against the officer. If you as an officer are not prepared when you go in, or you're not good at testifying, well, then that person then deserves to win. That's how this should work. It should be equitable and fair all across the board. And if in fact you get a citation, you believe that you were cited erroneously, then you need to take that up with court and go head to head with the police officer and have your day. I really believe that. I'm Connor with Honor. We'll see you in the next one. And thank you for watching Ticket Whisperer, and be well. Oh, just real quick, if you have a citation and you're interested in me looking it over, no problem. Just hit me up here on YouTube and I'll be able to coordinate with you the best way to do that. All I would suggest is, if you're going to be sending, because some people have been sending me citations that have all their stuff on it, and I really appreciate the trust, but what I would do is just get rid of any personal information. I'd get rid of your name, I'd get rid of your address, because most of that information isn't going to really, unless it's completely wrong. If your name's John Smith and they called you Henry Rodriguez, maybe there's an issue there, because that's not going to be your citation. If they screwed up your driver's license number, there might not be any connection between you and whoever's driver's license number that the officer erroneously transcribed numbers for. There's other suggestions with regard to that, how you can go double check and see if they were able to put it together later. But if they did later, how do we know that really that was you when they wrote the citation? Maybe it was, but do we really know if it was you, even though you can remember maybe you got stopped by a different officer? There's a lot of questions in there, but you can get rid of that. Get rid of your name, get rid of the address, line out your date of birth, any other pertinent information. But what's important for me to see is the violation, how it was written, and the other little factors, height, weight, race, whatever all that stuff is, hair color, eye color. If that's wrong, usually it's going to be what's obtained off your license. So if you haven't updated your license and you used to be, like I was, super fat 365, and now you've lost a lot of weight, you should go update your license. But again, if those are the errors, probably not a problem. But if it's the diagram, the officer was in a different location than he indicated on the citation, or if he didn't fill out any of that, his evidentiary gathering for the citation purposes of writing you the infraction, it lacks. That could be something that you can use to your benefit in court, showing the officer's presence of mind at the moment that they wrote the citation, and maybe thereby getting a little bit of leeway, being able to move out of having the court find in the officer, the department, or the city's favor, and actually finding in your favor of not guilty. I'm Connor with Honor. We'll see you in the next one.